Hi guys, this is Busco. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing another top 10 songs video. We've been doing these practically, well, in the beginning of the month. We did one about a month ago. And today we're going to be doing another top 10 songs video for one of my favorite bands of all time. They're my second favorite band of all time, right behind the Beatles, Pink Floyd. Now, when I did the top 10 Beatles songs video, as well as the top 10 Rush video, because I did those previously, I mentioned that, and especially in the Beatles video, that the list wasn't terribly difficult for me to make because I had clear selective favorite songs of mine. This list was tough. I apparently don't have clear. Well, I do have I have always had long time favorite songs of mine from this band because I love this band a lot. As I mentioned, they're my second favorite band of all time, right behind the Beatles. And this list was really difficult. If you ask me, say maybe next week or a month from now, the list could change. And I want to try to make this a short video because I have. When I did, pretty much the first three videos of the series, so Paul McCartney's solo career, the Beatles, and Rush, they were all long videos, so I'm gonna try for this video not to be long, although this is Pink Floyd's one of my favorite bands of all time, and I have a lot to say about them because they mean so much to me, and my list will be mainly based around, well, actually all 10 of these songs are from the 70s. I love the 60s psychedelic stuff, but for me, I love the 70s stuff. I love where they got, I guess, more progressive and more, I don't know if mainstream is the right word, but they have had a couple hits in the 70s and in I don't know about this, it was mainly the glory years where they had hits, and most Pink Floyd fans classified the glory years as from, I guess, the early 70s to the late 70s. So Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, or I'm sorry, I'm going in a different order. Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, and The Wall. The Wall was 1979. That was the last album released in that decade. And my list is made up of of a good chunk of songs from that era. And there's a couple songs that there's like one song on this list that's before the glory years, I think, right? Yeah, just about. So, this list was really difficult for me to make because I love this band a lot, but let's get to this list. So, coming at number 10 from The Wall, which is a great album, it's one of my favorite albums from them, and probably my second favorite, right behind Dark Side of the Moon, which we'll get to songs from that album later. I have a lot to say about that, but this is a song that I've always loved. I think it's one of the, well, I don't know if I'd say underrated, but it's probably a deep cut, and not a lot of people, when people think of Pink Floyd, not a lot of people think of this song, which is a shame because I think this is one of the best songs on the album. This was side 4 of the record, I think, and The Wall is a concept album about this guy named Pink who goes through random stages. His father died in World War II. That's loosely based on, and the character Pink is loosely based on Roger Waters and their former bandmate at the time, Syd Barrett, who had left the band due to his LSD addiction, and he was just out of it. He was just heavily dove into LSD frame of mind, and that was really all you saw of him was those first 2 albums. But and then later in the concept, Pink just he loses it. He goes through it. He deals through relationships. He breaks up. His girlfriend cheats on him, and then he goes through this random crap, and then he builds this wall. He builds bricks. Metaphorically speaking, obviously, he builds bricks around him to just isolate himself from everyone and everything. And later, the story kind of gets interesting. Later, he becomes a fascist dictator, which is kind of, you didn't really expect that. But I saw the movie The Wall. It was very good, but the album itself is great. But My number 10 pick, I've been talking a lot about the concept and instead of the song. This has been a favorite song of mine for a long time, and my number 10 is Run Like Hell. I love the guitar riff in the song. I think this has easily been one of my favorite songs off the album, and Run Like Hell is it's just I love the vocals in the song. I love again the guitar riff is great. And I love the keyboard solo from the late great Richard Wright at the end of the song. And this was around the time where Richard Wright is barely noticed on anything. You know, he played. I would say the beginning of Roger Waters' takeover of the band started on Animals, and then you could tell on The Wall, and then you could definitely tell on the Final Cut, which would be their next album, which we'll get to later. But Run Like Hell has just been a favorite of mine. I love the vocals, the lyrics are great, and yeah, it's just a really great song. I've always loved it. So coming in at number 10 for me is Run Like Hell off The Wall. Coming in at number 9 from Dark Side of the Moon. I mean, what more can I say about it that hasn't been said already? It's my favorite album from the band. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. When I did my top 100 favorite albums of all time last year at the end of 2020, this was in the top 5, and it was well, I'm not gonna. Okay, I'll just say it was number 2, right behind Abbey Road by the Beatles. Check the video out if you haven't. I highly recommend it. But I was, you know what? I was thinking of putting every song on this album on the from the album on my list because there's 10 songs, but I didn't do that because that's ridiculous, and there's much more songs I love from this band. But actually, my number 8 and my number 9 and my number 8 go perfectly together. They're from the same album. My number 9. If you had asked me years ago, probably would have ranked higher, but I still love it either way. My number 9 is the album closer, Eclipse. Eclipse is just lyrically, it's phenomenal. Musically, it's stellar. Just everything about it. Even it's one of the shortest songs on the album, but it's just a perfect creation. And the lyrics are just perfect, like I mentioned, and the music is great. I love the lyrics, well, yeah, like I mentioned, I'm trying to say I love the vocals is what I meant to say. But everything about it is just perfect. I think it's just one of the best album closers of all time, and I love the backing vocals too from Claire Torrey, who did fantastic on another song that we'll talk about later. But my number 9 is Eclipse, and my number 8, coming in at number 8, you know what number 8 is? Brain Damage, the song that comes before Eclipse. Brain Damage and Eclipse for me are they're neck and neck. They're I could probably flip flop one or the other. It really doesn't matter because they're both perfect. And Brain Damage, in a way, well, it actually lyrically is about their former bandmate Sid Barrett because he after he left the band he had a lot of LSD problems, and it was really sad for him to go through this. And they especially on the Wish You Were Here album, which was really dedicated to Sid Barrett. And Brain Damage is the lyrics you can kind of tell with the lyrics. The lunatic is in my head, or the lunatic is on the grass. It's just lyrically it's great, and musically it's phenomenal. Musically the whole album is phenomenal. It's a perfect album from start to finish. And of course you had that urban legend that if you would watch The Wizard of Oz and play Dark Side of the Moon at the same time, it tells a story. I've actually done it before, and I'm not really huge on these urban legend type of things. Well, I mean they're interesting to poke fun at, but it actually works. If you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. When the song "Money" comes on, that's when Dorothy's in. That's when the movie turns into color. I haven't seen The Wizard of Oz in a while. That was a really good movie. I remember watching that a lot as a kid. But anyway, that's another story. But coming at my number 9 and my number 8 is Eclipse and Brain Damage. Again, they can both flip flop at any time because I love both of the songs. But yeah, they come in at my number 9 and my number 8. Coming in at number 7, another song from The Wall. If you had asked me a couple of years ago, this definitely would have been my number 1, to be honest. And it's a song that may be overplayed. Well, yeah, it kind of is overplayed because that's when a lot of people think of Pink Floyd. That they think of that song specifically, and you probably know what I'm talking about. It's probably their most popular song, along with, Wish You Were Here, or Money, or Time, or, stuff like that. But it's from The Wall, and it's just a song that I've always loved. But if you ask me in years to come, there may be a couple songs I like more, and that might slip out of my top 10, but I still love it nonetheless. I never get tired of it for me. And my number 7 is Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 from The Wall. Now, Parts 1 and Parts 3, they're really great, but Part 2 is a standout. That's the one that everyone knows. And it really sticks out as one of their more popular tunes among some of their weird psychedelic stuff, their weird deep cuts. But this is it's just a great song. It's really catchy. I love the guitar solo from David Gilmour in it. That's a great one. David Gilmour's David Gilmour for me was and still is one of the greatest guitar players of all time, because I think he was just incredible. And when he joined Pink Floyd, it all made sense, but it would be even better as the glory years came, which we're in now. And yeah, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 is it's really great. I love the lyrics. I love the vocals from Roger, and just everything about it is great. And the choir is great too. That's also a classic part. And the scene in the movie with the school teacher, and he's getting on the students' nerves and all that. If you haven't seen the movie, I recommend it. It's really good. Great animation from Gerald Scarfe in the movie also. But coming in at number 7 for me is Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. Yeah, I do agree it is overplayed, but I still love listening to it. So coming in at number 7 for me is Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 off of The Wall. Coming in at number 6, this is out of the entire list the only song that's not in the glory years. It's a little bit before, but it's from an album I love a lot. One of my favorite albums from them. It's from Metal, and it's a fan favorite for most Pink Floyd. I guarantee you, probably most, if not every Pink Floyd fan would have this song in their top 10, and I love this song to death. It's just incredible, just all 23 minutes of it, and you know what I'm talking about. Coming in at number 6 for me is Echoes from Pink Floyd. And when I think about this is probably the very first, really lengthy song I'd ever heard. Growing up, I was a huge Beatles fan. Hey Jude was long at the time. That's 7 minutes. Inagata Davida is long from Iron Butterfly. That was 17 minutes. That was a really lengthy tune at the time. But then, of course, years later, when progressive rock was becoming a thing, King Crimson and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes and Genesis and Gentle Giant and more progressive bands, and throw in Pink Floyd too, Rush in the later years. But Echoes is probably, when I think about it, probably the first long song I ever heard. This was before I got into progressive rock, because when I was growing up, I didn't really like anything that was long. But of course when I got older, and then I listened to more Pink Floyd, and then I finally got it. It finally clicked with me. And Echoes is it's a really long song, but it's one of their best. And it may be for people trying to get into Pink Floyd. If you're not a huge fan of lengthy epics, you probably want to stay away from stuff like that. But it's great. I love the Richard Wright, no, the Richard Wright keyboard sound effect in the beginning. The ping sounds. It's really cool. I love the vocals. I love David Gilmour's vocals with Richard Wright's harmony vocals, and the song is great. And his guitar, David Gilmour's guitar throughout the entire song is incredible. I love Roger Waters' bass in the song. I think that's great, and I love the whale cry sound effects from David Gilmour in the middle of the song. And that used to freak me out when I first heard that, because I didn't really get into any horror movies. And, as I've gotten older, I've accepted that kind of stuff, and I love horror movies now, as I've shown on the channel with my Friday the 13th video, which I don't watch. I don't watch any of my old videos because I find them highly cringy, but if you want to watch them, hey, that's for your own entertainment. Do whatever you want. It's your own thing. But anyway, that's another topic from another day. Echoes is just perfect. I love all 23 minutes of it. It's just a perfect epic, and probably one of the first long epics of music. Although, like I mentioned before, Inagata Devita is 17 minutes. That's qualified as an epic length tune. Emerson, Lake and Palmer did Tarkus, as well as Carnival Mine, and Genesis years later did Supper's Ready, and Yes did Close to the Edge, and The Gates of Delirium. But that came after Echoes. But Echoes for me is probably one of the first long epics of history, and I love it a lot. So coming in number 6 for me is Echoes off of the Metal album, an album I love a lot. We're down to the top 5. Coming in at number 5, my favorite song off of Dark Side of the Moon, and this was it was difficult for me to figure out what my favorite song was on this album because I love everything about it. I love every song on that album because it's just a masterpiece for my eyes, and this is a song that I've always loved, and I've grown to love it even more as I've gotten older. Coming in number 5 for me is Time off of Dark Side of the Moon. Obviously, you start off the album with Speak to Me, Breathe, and On the Run. They all go together. Well, the entire album is interconnected. All the songs go together. But when you listen to Time, when you hear, after the explosion at the end of On the Run, you hear the background of that. And then later you hear sounds of alarm of the clock, and then all of a sudden, and this woke me. I remember, I think this was my alarm clock for a couple of years, but and then of course after that ticking, you hear, and then especially wearing headphones, it's amazing. But and then you hear that, and then after that, you get great great sound effects in the middle, great drum fills from Nick Mason, one of my favorite drummers of all time. I think he's criminally underrated. And I saw him a couple of years ago with his band, A Saucer Full of Secrets. He puts on a great show. And the band puts on a great show, too. And that was one of the last concerts I saw before COVID. I think the last concert I saw before COVID was Trans-Siberian Orchestra, probably something like that. But yeah, this song is perfect. I love the lyrics, and the lyrics are kind of depressing because it's talking about as you get older, you don't have a lot of time left. But it's just a perfect song. I love the phenomenal guitar solo from David Gilmour is just one of his best guitar solos. It's face melting. It's incredible. Like I mentioned, the lyrics are great, but yeah, it's just a perfect song from start to finish. So coming in at number 5 for me is Time. And speaking of more great guitar solos, coming in at number 4, Off of the Wall. This is a song that I think every Pink Floyd fan would have in their top 10, maybe. Every Pink Floyd fan is very unique. They have their own favorites, and I have my favorites. And coming in at number 4, this is a song that it has 2 guitar solos. I love both of them, but especially the first. The first one, honestly, may be my favorite guitar solo of all time, along with Stairway to Heaven from Led Zeppelin. But it's just a perfect guitar solo, and it's a timeless song. Coming in at number 4 is Comfortably Numb off the Wall. It's just a timeless song. It's just perfect. I love everything about it. I love I love how it begins with "Is There Anybody Out There?" Previous song off of the Wall, and then there's some great guitar, guitar slide effects or slide guitar effects, I should say, and then the vocals are great. The lyrics are really great. This is the part of the story where Pink is, in this mental state. I think about I only saw the movie a couple times. I didn't see it a lot, but I believe this is the time where he was watching TV and he was about to go on stage, and then he was just knocked out. He was just sitting in his chair. And then people broke down the door, and then they came in, and then he was unconscious. That's what I remember. And then they wanted to check if he was okay. They were wondering if he was already dead because, they were scared about that. But Comfortably Numb is great. I love the first guitar solo. It's just otherworldly. I love the second guitar solo, too. It's just really, really beautiful hearing now. I love it a lot. So coming in at number 4 for me is Comfortably Numb off the Wall. It's a great song that I never get tired of. All right, we're down to the top three, and these three tunes are really great. They're really close. Coming in number three. Okay, I put both of these songs together, even though they both bookend the album. I'm going to the Wish You Were Here album, another great album that's easily top three Pink Floyd album, if you're asking me, and for most Pink Floyd fans, some people think it's their best album. You know, I can understand that because it's a great album. And this song is really a dedication to Sid Barrett, their former bandmate. It's just this song is just it's really it's sad thinking about it because Sid Barrett, he looked like he fit the band well, and then all the LSD in his face, and he was just out of it. And this song really, well, songs I guess, because again, even though they bookend the album, I lump them all together. So coming in at number three for me, you know what it is: "Shine On You Crazy Diamond." Not parts 1 to 5 or parts 6 to 9, all of them. Parts 1 to 9. That 10 parts 1 to 9. Okay, that's what I'm doing. And this song, if you would ask me on maybe a couple weeks from now, it might be my number one because I think it's a perfect creation. Now I know a lot of people focus on the first 5 parts. I probably like the first 5 parts more than I do the last 4 parts, but I still love them. Just just great musicality, great instrumentation throughout the song. I love the guitar riff from David Gilmour, and Richard Wright is just phenomenal on this song. This is probably his best performance on the keyboards because he was great a lot, but this is one of his best performances, I think. And he really did fit the band. And yeah, this song is just great. I love like I mentioned, the first 5 parts are great. I like the last 4 parts, even though it's kind of that's more instrumental than it is vocal. Well, pretty much both of them are more instrumental than vocal, because I remember listening to 1 to 5, "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" parts 1 to 5, and I remember listening to it years and years and years ago when getting into Pink Floyd. And I remember I remember thinking, where are the vocals? And they didn't come in until 8 or 9 minutes into the song, and it's just a really poignant song for Sid Barrett. And they really did miss him at the time, and they really think that they made pretty much the entire album is a dedication to Sid Barrett. And it's just a really great song for his memory. Even though he passed away not after this, because I remember hearing at the Wish You Were Here sessions, they saw I think they saw a shaved a man who had a shaved head, and he gained weight, and he was carrying a plastic bag. And I think Richard Wright saw him jumping on the bed while brushing his teeth, I think. And I forgot who asked Richard who it was, and then they said, "Rick, who was it?" And he said, "That's Sid." And he just wandered into the studio. And, he was different at the time. He didn't look like he looked in the late 60s, because obviously all the LSD really changed him. But coming in at number three for me, "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" parts 1 to 5. Or, no, I'm sorry, parts 1 to 9. That's what I'm doing it. That's what I'm going for, because I love all 9 parts of the song. I think it's great. And coming in at number two is from the same album, another song that kind of gets me to this day and makes me really emotional. The title track to "Wish You Were Here." I mean, that's just great stuff right there. I think that I really think that this is a really gorgeous song, and I like how when the song starts, it sounds like you're listening to a stereo or a radio in a car that doesn't sound good, and then you hear a guitar riff, the guitar riff throughout the song, coming from the radio, and then you hear David playing in actuality, and the lyrics are really beautiful. The vocals are great. The musicality or the instrumentation is great. Just everything about it is perfect. And a lot of Pink Floyd fans probably put this as their number one or somewhere in the list. I just love everything about it. So coming in at number 2 for me is "Wish You Were Here," the title track to the album from the same name. And my number 1 is probably going to surprise every single one of you out there. So, and when I did the Beatles show, this is similar. So for my two favorite bands, my number 1 is a deep cut. So my number 1, I'm not going to say what my number 1 is for the Beatles. Watch the video if you haven't. I recommend it. My number 1 for that list was a deep cut. So is this. So I want to see what do you guys think is my number 1. I want you to figure out what's how about goes number 1 favorite Pink Floyd song. I'm going a deep cut as any. This is as deep as any deep cut you're gonna get from me. Okay, this is a really deep cut. It's a song that, as I've gotten older, it's become one of my favorite songs, not only from the band but of all time from anyone. I'm gonna go to the the album Animals, which is phenomenal, and that's probably for me easily their most underrated album. I love it a lot. And as I'm getting older, it's ranking higher with some of my favorite albums. It's a very dark album. It's very moody. I love everything about it. I love all the songs. It's bookended by Pigs on the Wing Parts 1 and 2, the 3 epics in the middle. One of the 3 epics is my number 1. All 3 of them are phenomenal. They're criminally underrated. And my number 1 is probably going to surprise a lot of you, although there are some people that would probably have 1 or 2 Animal songs, maybe the entire album in their top 10, because there's only 5 songs. But coming in at number 1 for me, my favorite Pink Floyd song of all time, a deep cut that I love a lot, "Sheep" from Animals. Just I love how I love how it starts. It starts with it starts off with sheep sound effect. It's sheep, making noise, bah, whatever the hell noise they make. I haven't listened to Animals in a while. I've listened to the album. I haven't listened to actual farm animals in a while because I don't go to barns. Although that would be interesting. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. I love the Hammond organ from, I don't know if it's a Hammond organ, but I love the keyboards from Richard Wright. And then the song gets dark. I love the guitar riff, or the guitar notes from David Gilmour. And I love Roger Waters' vocals in the song, and the bass work throughout the song. And as Roger's singing a note, his voice turns into a keyboard, or a synthesizer sound effect, which is incredible. I love the lyrics are really dark, and Animals. The Animals album is based off of George Orwell's novel Animal Farm, which is a book I read in school, and actually that was the last book I read before COVID shut down. But that was last year. This song just all 10 minutes of it is perfect. I love how you get a break. You just calm down for a little bit. And then that's not sore because I get right back. And then after that, after the final lyrics of the song, the last 3 minutes of this song are some of the best minutes of music I have ever heard in my music listening history. And I haven't been on this earth long enough to consume a lot of music. Millions of albums, but I gotta say, Sheep, the ending to Sheep, maybe the best ending to any song that I have ever heard, in my personal opinion. Although I will say that final chord of "A Day in the Life" from the Beatles, perfect. That's up there. But Sheep, the ending to Sheep, with that phenomenal guitar riff from David Gilmour, great drumming from Nick Mason. I think he's phenomenal throughout the song. And just the music from every band member is just so good. And I think I love the Animals album. It's so underrated. I just love everything about it. And "Sheep" is my number 1 favorite Pink Floyd song. I want to know how many people thought that was my number 1. That's as deep as any deep cut you're going to get from me, as I mentioned before. So, before we go to honorable mentions, I will show you my list. Again, I have a feeling this list was really difficult to make, because I apparently don't have any clear-cut favorite Pink Floyd songs. This list is most likely going to change in the near future, but I'm going to go through honorable mentions like I always do. So, from their debut album, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn, so this is their psychedelic stage. I love The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. In fact, that was the first album I ever heard from them, and along with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles, that was probably the second album I heard from start to finish. Sgt. Pepper from the Beatles was the first one, and then Piper at the Gates of Dawn was the second. Just so much nostalgia, and I love everything about the album. And I'm probably, you know what, before I do that, I actually want to mention a couple, off the top of my head, I actually didn't write this down, a couple singles or non-album singles and B-sides. So, Arnold Lane, their song that was really popular for them, great song, I love that. See Emily Play is great. I love Biding My Time, that's another great one. Um, Oh, there's so many. Paintbox. Paintbox is actually the first Pink Floyd song I ever heard. That's great Richard Wright vocal on that song. That was the very first Pink Floyd song I ever heard. What else? Yeah, there's so many. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go online right now because the Relics album, which was their compilation album. It's a compilation album well, wait, what was the subtitle? A bizarre collection of antiques and curios. That was the subtitle to the album. So yeah, Arnold Lane, See Emily Play, Paintbox, Julia Dreams, another great song. Point Me at the Sky is great. Careful with that action. We're actually going to talk about that later. And yeah, Biding My Time I mentioned. So yeah, just some non-album B-sides and singles I wanted to mention. All right, but back to whoa, hold on. Now, let me get to my list again. So, from the Piper at the Gates of Dawn, now that we got the singles out the way. So, from their debut album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Astronomy Domine. That's a great way to open the album. Lucifer Sam, a favorite song of mine that I've always loved as a kid. I love everything about it. All right, even though this is one of the weirdest songs this band has ever made, this song is bizarre as all hell. One of the weirdest songs they've ever made in their psychedelic period, but I've always had a soft spot for it. And here goes notifications. I've always loved this song as a kid, and I still kind of have a soft spot for it today. It's weird, but I just have always had a soft spot for it. I guess you'd call it a guilty pleasure. How Artake is so weird. You know, it opens with Sid Barrett going boom, and then after that you get these weird sounds from Roger Waters. He did a lot of weird. He made a lot of weird sounds, especially in the psychedelic era of the band. And the ending of the song is so weird. I love Nick Mason's drumming. It goes boom, 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 boom. It is so weird. I love the cocktail piano from Richard Wright throughout the song. It's just a weird ass song, but it's so cool. I've always loved it. Another weird song, Take Up My Stethoscope and Walk. Musically, it's great, but you know the lyrics are kind of bizarre. But yeah, and I love the tempo change where they go to an instrumental break, and you can hear Sid Barrett randomly yelling "Look out!" like there's an oncoming train or something like that. It's awesome. I love that. Interstellar Overdrive. That's a song that was in my top 10 and got booed out. That's my favorite song off the album. I love this instrumental. It's one of their best instrumentals. I love everything about it. And Bike is another favorite of mine. Again, the ending of the song is so weird, but I love it a lot. So that's from some of my favorites from Piper at the Gates of Dawn. From A Saucer Full of Secrets. Really underrated album. I do like that a lot. I like the debut more than I do A Saucer Full of Secrets. But as I'm getting older, I really like it a lot. Let There Be More Light is a great song. I love that. Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun is fantastic. I love that a lot. Again, it's weird, but Corporal Clegg, you know, this is actually the last, well, they got David Gilmour on this album, and Sid Barrett was still there, but he wasn't the front man like he was on Piper at the Gates of Dawn. And Corporal Clegg, I love how this song features kazoos. It's just so weird, but I love it a lot. And the title track, A Saucer Full of Secrets, is beautiful. I think Nick Mason said that was his favorite Pink Floyd album. That's probably why he named the band A Saucer Full of Secrets after the album. But the song is really great. I love, you know, the first three parts are really weird. It's an instrumental. Probably even weirder than Interstellar Overdrive, but it, you know, it starts off weird with random sounds and cacophony with three sections, but the fourth section where it's all calm and mellow and phenomenal phenomenal singing, just from David Gilmour, where he's going, "Oh, you know the song. But yes, the title track to Such Full of Secrets is great. Okay, so Sid Barrett's out of the band, and then this is where we get to the soundtrack to the film More. This is an album that when I first heard it, I wasn't huge on, but I actually like it a lot more than I used to be honest. And this is the classic lineup that everyone knows from Pink Floyd. Sirius Minor is a favorite song of mine. The Nile song is incredible. I love that a lot. Up the Kyber's always been a favorite of mine. That's a Nick Mason and Richard Wright duo. That's kind of a jazz fusion piece, but in psychedelic age. Green is the Color is another great song. In fact, Nick Mason's band performed that live when I saw him. They did a really good job of that. They performed everything before, or well, they performed from Piper at the Gates of Dawn all the way to Obscured by Clouds before The Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall and Wish You Were Here and Animals and the Glory Years is what I'm talking about. But Green is the Color is a great song. Cymbeline is a favorite of mine. I always really liked the main theme. That was a cool instrumental. You know, some of the instrumentals are cool. Ibiza Bar is great. That and the Nile song are probably the most rock songs on the album because there's a lot of psychedelia on the album. And Ibiza Bar, Ibiza Bar and the Nile song are practically the same thing. They're both great. And I like the dramatic theme at the end, the final track off the album. All right, from Umaguma. Umaguma, or most people pronounce it Umaguma. That's probably how it's pronounced, although I've always pronounced it Umaguma. But this is a double album. It's the first disc is live, and the second disc is studio. I will say the live album is fantastic. In some cases, the live stuff is better than the studio, especially Careful with That Axe, Eugene, the live version. I like the studio version, but the live version for me is so much better. It's just great music from the band, and I love how it's kind of freaky. When I first heard Careful with That Axe, Eugene, for the first time, I just heard, and this is a couple minutes into the song, you just hear Roger Waters whispering, "Careful with that axe, Eugene," and then all of a sudden you hear, ah! You hear him screaming, and it's just incredible. I always thought, it's pretty weird for casual fans to hear, but I love everything about it. I love the hell out of it. It's just awesome. And the narrow it. So I'm gonna get the live stuff is great. But the studio stuff, I will admit that's where they didn't really have a lot of great stuff, but I will say there's a couple stuff I like, including David Gilmour's piece, The Narrow Way. So this is where every band member had their own piece. Roger Waters actually had two songs. Richard Wright had one. David Gilmour had one. Nick Mason had one. And The Narrow Way is probably my favorite out of all the studio stuff. I really like, and especially the third part is great. I think he's great on that. And even though it's weird, and I'm a percussionist, I'm a drummer, so I find this stuff interesting, and I've always kind of liked it as a kid. I always kind of liked the Grand Vizier's Garden Party, 1 to 3. I don't know, for some reason I've always liked it. I know a lot of people consider that the worst on Umaguma. Hey, I've always liked it. But yeah, that's from Umaguma, or Umaguma, however you pronounce it. From Atom Heart Mother. This is for me where they were getting into their progressive stage, and then before, pre the Glory Years, before the Glory Years. The title track, Atom Heart Mother, is great. I really like that. A favorite of mine is Summer '68. I love that. I've always loved the Richard Wright songs of this era before Dark Side of the Moon. I thought his songs were really strong, and some of the strongest that they've ever done. I really love. I love his vocals. I love the music on the song. I love the horns in the song too. And of course, in the Glory Years, he was kind of getting overshadowed, and Roger Waters was at the main front. This is where he was taking over the band. And then Richard Wright was eventually fired from Roger Waters because I think Roger Waters said you're not contributing enough. Even though he was doing all the contributions, he was just up there a lot. The Wall was pretty much mainly Roger Waters, and good chunk of it is, well, no, most of it is Roger Waters, and some of it is David Gilmour and a little bit of Richard Wright. Well, actually, no, it's just Roger Waters is mainly on that album, and then David Gilmour's only has a couple songs. Richard Wright barely has, and I don't even think he does. Only let that keyboard solo and Run Like Hell. Yeah, I always really liked Richard Wright's songs of the early part of their career. And Fat Old Son, David Gilmour's song is great. That honestly sounds like a Beatles song. It's that good. From the album Metal. Metal for me is a great album. One of These Days is incredible. I remember hearing that for the first time. You hear it opens with with the sound of wind, and then you hear Roger Waters' bass note, and then you get the bing, and then it's just great. And then, of course, in the middle of the song, you get drum fills from Nick Mason, and then he says, "One of these days, I'm going to cut you into little pieces." And then they just get into a great kick-ass tempo. It's just perfect. I love everything about it. A Pillow of Wings is great. Fearless, another great song, featuring You'll Never Walk Alone at the end of the song. Saint-Tropez is really good, too, and Seamus, another great song. From Obscured by Clouds. Obscured by Clouds, for me, is an underrated and overlooked album because it's sandwiched in between two big albums for them, Metal and Dark Side of the Moon. So, that one, that album was kind of, overshadowed by casual Pink Floyd fans, but I really like that album. I love the title track of Obscured by Clouds. I love, they did quite a few instrumentals. I really like that. And also When You're In, which is kind of a continuation of the title track. I love that. The Gold, It's in the ... The song titles are from this album are great. I love that. Mudmen is a great song with another great David Gilmour solo. Childhood's End is fantastic. My favorite song off that album. I really want that in my top 10. That's probably somewhere in the top 20, probably. Free For is another great song. And I really like the song Stay. Again, like I explained with Summer 68, I really like the Richard Wright songs of the early part of their career. From Dark Side of the Moon, I listed everything because I couldn't help it. I love everything about the album. Speak to Me, Breathe. I really wanted Breathe in my top 10. I love that. On the Run is great. The Great Gig in the Sky. Great Claire Torrey vocal from the song. Money. Money's a really popular song from them. That, to be honest, is probably my number 11. I love Money. And that has a great Gilmour guitar solo and great bass riff from Roger Waters. And that's probably that's got to be one of the first songs that was on radio with an odd time signature and 7/4 time. All the rock standards. 4/4 time. 3/4 time. Stuff like that. That's normal rock. Time signatures. But when of course, progressive rock. And also progressive metal. You've got time signatures like 7/4 and 9/8 and 6/8, and of course Dream Theater would go 1916 and 1816 and weird crap like that. But it's awesome. You gotta love the time signatures. But time Money is probably the first song. On radio with an odd time signature, 7/4. Us and Them is a great song. That's a song that I've always liked, but I didn't really pay attention to the lyrics because that's an anti-war song. Roger Waters' father died in World War II. Like I mentioned before when I talked about The Wall, I was loosely inspired by Roger. And I didn't pay attention to the lyrics, and I always thought, I like it, I don't love it, but I have grown to love it, and I love everything about it. And Any Color You Like is great. From Wish You Were Here, Welcome to the Machine. Welcome to the Machine. Yeah, from Welcome to the Machine, Wish You Were Here. No, Welcome to the Machine is a great song, and Have a Cigar, featuring Roy Harper on vocals, is great. I love both those songs. From Animals, Pigs on the Wing Part 1 is great. Dogs is incredible. I love everything about that. Great guitar solo from David Gilmour. I love how he sings the first half of the song, and then Roger Waters sings the next half of the song, and that's a great way how Dogs ends in a great way. Pigs, Three Different Ones is great too. I love how angry Roger Waters is. You can tell from these lyrics, he he is a Democrat. You can tell he's very liberal with his lyrics, and especially in the past couple of years, you know a certain politician that he was very angry at, and of course he made fun of that politician in live shows, and I'm not going to mention their name. You know who I'm talking about. I don't talk about politics on the channel. That's why. But yeah, Pigs, Three Different Ones is great, and Pigs on the Wing Part 2. All right, so from the Wall, I didn't include every song from there because that would take up a good half of the list. But I want to mention a handful. So In the Flesh, question mark. I like that one a lot. That's great. The Thin Ice is great. Another Brick in the Wall Part 1, Going into the Happiest Days of Our Lives. That's great. And of course, that goes into Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, which I mentioned in my list. Mother, that's another great song. Goodbye Blue Sky is gorgeous. I love that. And the great animation from Gerald Scarfe in this song. Empty Spaces is great. Young Lust. All right, so Young Lust is probably, along with Money, that's easily in the top 15. Number 11 or number 12, I love Young Lust. Hey You is another classic. I love that. Is There Anybody Out There is great. Nobody Home, another favorite of mine. Waiting for the Worms is great. I love The Trial. I love how cinematic it is. I love I love the random voices from Roger in the song, and I love how heavy they get when the judge comes in. When you hear the audience before the evidence before the court, the evidence before the court is incontrovertible. It's just great. I love that, and then he orders Pink to tear down the wall. Because he isolated himself from the outside world. I love The Wall. It's a classic album for me. All right, so we're getting into the 80s and later. So from the Final Cut. The Final Cut I like. I will say I don't really dislike any Pink Floyd album, but I will say the Final Cut's not one of my favorites. It's one of my lesser favorites. And, the Final Cut, it's a Roger Waters solo album. This is the time. It's just a Roger Waters solo album, but with the Pink Floyd name on the album and on the album cover, and David Gilmour and Nick Mason, because Richard Wright got fired by Roger Waters because Roger was leading the band at the time. And I do like this album, but it's a Roger Waters solo album. I think on the back of the album it said "A Requiem for the Post-War Dream" by Roger Waters. By Roger Waters. So that's clearly telling you that this is all Roger's work. But there's a couple good songs. The Post-War Dream is great. Even though it wasn't on the original album, it was on the reissue. When the Tigers Broke Free is great. The Gunner's Dream is a favorite of mine. I love the saxophone in the song. I like the title track, The Final Cut's great. Not Now John, probably my favorite off the album. That's actually the only David Gilmour vocal on the song. Roger sings everything else. And Two Sons in the Sunset is great also. This is Roger Waters' final album in the band, and then he left, and then they took a bit of a hiatus, and then David Gilmour brought it back with Nick Mason. They had Richard Wright on a couple songs, but it was basically a duo between Dave and Nick. And I know this made Roger Waters really upset and really angry. He said that you can't make this happen. I believe he sued them for the. I believe so. They don't get along, especially in these days. But we go to A Momentary Lapse of Reason, which I really like that album, and I know a lot of Pink Floyd fans don't, but I always liked it. Learning to Fly is a great song. I love Learning to Fly. The Dogs of War is great. One Slip, On the Turning Away is great. I love Terminal Frost. That's a great instrumental. And Sorrow is another great song. Now we go into the 90s with The Division Bell, which Richard Wright is now fully back in the band. And The Division Bell is another really good album. I like that album a lot. What Do You Want From Me is great. Pretty much an angry letter to Roger Waters, sung by David Gilmour. I like that song a lot. Maroons is a great instrumental. Take It Back is great. Keep Talking is probably my favorite off the album. Lost for Words is a great. And High Hopes is another favorite of mine. And their last album from 2014, which basically it's just redubbed from the Division Bell sessions, and it's mainly an instrumental album from The Endless River. And this was released after Richard Wright passed away in 2008 due to cancer. He's truly missed to this day. He's one of my favorite keyboard players of all time. So from the Endless River, Some, that's a really good instrumental. Skins is really good. Anacina, I like. I like Alonzi 1 and 2. I really like that a lot. And Louder Than Words is another great song. That's actually the final track off the album, and the only song with lyrics in the song. So that was honorable mentions. Let me show you my list one more time. I know I've been doing a lot of talking, and looking at the length, it's a long video. So I'm gonna end the video now. Let me know what your favorite Pink Floyd songs are in the comments below. I love Pink Floyd. They're, like I mentioned, my second favorite band of all time. I've just loved listening to their music, growing up with their music, and still enjoying it today. I've been on a Pink Floyd kick since, I don't know. I've always loved their music, but I've been really listening to their music a lot lately, and I felt like, hey, let me do a Pink Floyd video, because, I've done Pink Floyd videos in the past, because, if you follow me, if you follow the channel since for a couple of years, you know how much I love Pink Floyd and how much they mean to me. So yeah, those are my top 10 favorite songs for Pink Floyd. What are your favorite Pink Floyd songs? And leave your list of honorable mentions if you decide to. Let me know what other bands you would like me to do in the comments below for top 10 songs, because I really like this series. I'm hoping to get a couple more in. Some of my favorite bands. So yeah, maybe we'll continue this series for as long as it goes. So the video is already lengthy, so I'm going to stop now. So anyway, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave your favorite Pink Floyd songs down below. So please leave a like, comment if you want, view my videos, and of course subscribe and ring the bell for daily notifications. Thanks for watching this video, guys. This has been Halbosco, signing off. Stay safe, take care.